you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
I'm Pamela Aaralyn, and I'm a multidimensional channel. Not really to my awareness. They weren't fully in their awakened state. There were many people who had experiences with prophetic dreams, telepathy. There are some healers in my family, but they're not really fully aware of it. Yes, since age 5, that is how long it has been, and I can't imagine life being different. So to ask me, what is it like? It's hard to say. I've always been this way. And it's a little lonely. You know, we were just discussing this in a live venue a few moments ago about how it can be lonely because I don't experience things the way that most channels do. And it's a little different. I don't perceive separation. Everyone feels like they are me, and I feel as if I am them, and that is my truth. So it is lonely when people say, oh, I'm suffering, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. As a channel, I don't experience that. And I am constantly in touch with Christ conscious energies. And no matter what occurs in my life, in my perspective, is complete bliss. Difficult in a sense, because I was trying to find relativity to other people who do experience things that I don't, who do experience traumas and pain. And I was trying to understand the human perception of separation, and that was incredibly difficult. From age 5, I had an interesting experience with some angelic beings who called themselves Elohim. And from that point forth, I was interacting with Archangel Michael, all of the archangels, Yeshua ben Joseph, otherwise known as Jesus, and those mediumship abilities were there from that moment. I had an interesting experience where an angelic being touched me, and he touched me on the heart and said, now you feel, and then on the ears and said, now you hear, and then right here, you know, in what I call the first eye, some channels call this the third eye, but to me it's relevant as the first point of vision for me, and said, now you see. And then he touched me here, you know, in my crown area and said, now you know. From that moment, I began to perceive different realities occurring simultaneously. So I could look at a room and the way that you would see me as a solid being. I don't see solid beings. I see straight through you. I don't see that the table over there, you know, for instance, is actually an object. I see straight through it, and I see blending and movement of energies. So from that point on, I noticed that it was more difficult for me in physical vision. It was more difficult for me as a teenager to drive and to perceive perception between myself and other cars in front of me. You know, so I had some unfortunate accidents there for a while until I learned how to operate in this way of being, this multidimensional modality. Luckily, my parents were very aware of who I am, and they did not try to inhibit my growth. They didn't try to explain to me oh, you don't see what you see, or that's not real. But they would say, however, we are in society and other people don't believe that, so let's tone it down quite a notch. I believe that the first book that I read that truly helped was Living in the Light by Shakti Gawain. In an instant, I realized that there was another being that really saw life as light and saw sound as light and didn't differentiate between light and sound. And she lived life with a full perspective of love, and that felt really good to read something that I completely related to and understood for the first time. My recollections right now of childhood insofar as high school was that I was told I was popular, and I didn't perceive it. Because popular back then meant you're a cheerleader, you're a football player, you're a this, you're a that, and I didn't perceive labels. So I would ask, well, what does that mean to be popular? Because to me, I spent the majority of my high school years intermingling between different crowds. I would go to what people say the cheerleading crowd, and hang out with them. And then I would go hang out with someone else within the same lunch period, and then someone else, and then someone else. And, it was very interesting. I didn't perceive separation in that way. At that time, no, there was one teacher that I would share it with, and he completely understood it. He was a retired chemist. And I remember, going to his house with my friends, and my friends knew that I saw things, and they're like, oh, she's being weird again. She's talking to perceivably dead people. And he would just say, oh, well, that's quite normal, and let's talk about it from the standpoint of physics, which was fascinating to me, to have someone put it in third-dimensional terms. I attempted to hold third-dimensional jobs. I attempted the 9-to-5s. I attempted swing shifts. I remember working at Days Inn as an auditor at night, and then I would work as a server by day, and then I went to school, part-time as well, and then eventually full-time, and I couldn't keep up. I recognized how difficult it was to really do normal things, normal third-dimensional things, because I was not operating in that dimension. In that sense, it was deciding to stop trying to do things that really didn't fit in with who I am. And that was it felt right to just stop trying to do that. And my life forced me to stop. I was undergoing an operatic training, a very stringent operatic training degree at University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. I was also double majoring in woodwinds. Music has been my first channeling experience ever. I believe I sang before I talked. So going through school and education and then deciding that it just wasn't working was difficult, but my body opted out. I remember having to have 4 vocal cord surgeries because I could no longer sing. And that was spirit within me moving and saying, okay, you're a channel, but now it's time to do something different with all these gifts that you keep hiding from the world. Oh, age 5? It's not a realization. It's always been. But it's a matter of, do I really want to do it and go forth into the world? Because I had spent the majority of my life hiding and being told it was wrong by most of my friends who were still highly religious. I've always been a channel, and it comes through sound. When I hear a person's voice, it was Jesus himself who trained me to see energy, to accelerate my energies, and to stand in Christ conscious energies. And from that point at age 5, channeling happened naturally and accelerating my energies when I wanted to, decelerating them when I wanted to, being more in my body when I want to and not when I don't want to. So all of that has always been in existence. It's hard for me to say there's a when point. It's just a matter of when I professionally decided to say, okay, now I'm going to be open and public about it. There's not a matter of lack of belief to something that just is. It would be like saying, do I believe that I'm Pamela when I was born Pamela? I don't enjoy it. There's something that Edgar Casey came through when I channeled him, and he said to me, mediums stand a challenge in this world, and all channels do for that matter, for validating and becoming a circus act and really wanting to please the public. And that's not what I'm about. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. When you believe something about death that the Christ energies and the Elohim angelics have not told me is true, It's an endless cycle. It can be the biggest trap professionally for a medium is to try to please people as opposed to just authentically, honestly telling people exactly what you're getting in your connection. Therefore, what I observed is don't even try. Really state to people, this is how I operate. I as a channel, I as a medium am this way, and this is how the energies are coming through. Sometimes that validation occurs, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time when you're sitting with me, it will, but it's not going to come out from the get-go in the very beginning. If a channel feels nervous to please you and to jump through rings of fire for you, because you're hurting and we begin to take accountability for your pain, we will grieve along with you. And most of us are incredibly empathic. So we feel your pain to a certain degree, but our job is to separate from it so that we can give you an honest, authentic connection to what's really occurring. And that is divine truth. So channeling to me is just simply being the God within myself, being myself. It is as simple as honoring the Christ energies, knowing that I am God, you are God, we are all unique pieces of God, and we are here in a collective together to bring forth those divine truths. It is a celebratory journey where channels are finally being their transparent, authentic selves. And we are stepping into the energies of the Christ consciousness. And it's incredibly exciting for me. To me, if you're standing in accelerated energies and honoring the truth of the I am, that's who you are, then you are channeling. As long as you are being authentic, you are channeling. I see channeling coming through sports, paintings, voice, when I play my singing bowls, when I do a lot of my etheric chanting and overtoning, that's channeling. There is never a small self. The truth of channeling is that you are at one. It's not a fragmented version of you. You understand the unity of the Christ conscious energies. You understand your God nature, and you understand the truth. I don't feel that there's a point in time because I've always felt connected as a channel and understood that channeling is, I am a body, it is a tool, but I am not. In the truth of it, I am not my body. I am a light being. I am a presence. I am an energy, and this body is working with me functionally, sort of like a pipe. And if the body is the pipe, the truth is the water, and that is channeling. Late 20s was me giving myself permission to be seen because I've always viewed myself as just a conduit and no one's looking. It's easier to be a channel when no one's looking, right? And then when people are looking, it's like, oh, you see me. Oh my goodness. And it's frightening, and I've always been a bit reserved. It's been difficult for me to come from a Southern Baptist background and then to be shown and seen as a human being where people are looking and thinking that the messages that are coming through are coming from my body. And for me, I'm not even connecting to my body as being real. It's just a tool of existence so that I can get these beautiful messages to you. So to be seen was a challenge in my 20s. And then to stop trying to please people, to really understand that as a channel, I have to be in my authentic presence. Very, very difficult because I come from this background of religion where my parents were great, but the rest of society said, oh, that's bad. What did you just say? That might be something bad. You might be going to hell there. I still care what other people think. And that is a portion that, as a channel, I highly advise you release. If you care what other people think at all, please release it. Because as a channel, it'll become a very difficult path if you don't. Still working on it. That's it. That's the biggest thing, the fear of being seen. It is still there, and you're still looking. So one day, when I feel that I can teach the world that you're not seeing me as a body, me as a mind, me as an ego, but what you are receiving is you, and that what I'm seeing when I look back is me. When all of that unity occurs, then perhaps no one will be afraid to channel. There was no coming out because at age 5, I started to be at the dinner table, at family functions, and I would say things like, oh, Uncle Roger looks a little blue today, and my mother knew that I didn't mean he was sad. And she's like, okay, you're seeing something, all right, And there were always strange things being said, and I thought that other people could see and hear what I could see. And my parents had to be the ones to tell me, oh, they're not viewing it that way. They're not seeing please don't read their minds. And I'm like, oh, I'm reading their minds? I thought they actually said that. So my mother had to teach me, oh, their mouths didn't move. If their mouths didn't move, they didn't say it. So why are you repeating it? And it was that nature of, oh, I'm not supposed to be saying things that, oh, okay. I can't say that anything surprises me because it's been going for so long. But the only thing that I could say surprises me is finally I'm coming forth without fear and sharing it with you. And what surprises me most often about channeling is how people receive it, that people are no longer judging the message. That's the biggest nature of something that has always happened. And finally, I'm speaking and people are listening and going, oh, I'm hearing you. I'm really hearing you, not with judgment, but with my heart. That surprises me. And humanity is changing, not channeling, but the people who are receiving and understanding that we're all students and teachers of God within. That's happening, and that is surprising me in a great way. It's been called mediumship, it's been called psychic, it's been called seance, it's been called many, many things, but it's all the same. Absolutely, and I've observed this in many types of modalities with regressions. This is what I began channeling Dolores Cannon, and it was amazing. And she said, oh, you're coming through me and I'm coming through you. And that was wonderful to hear, a quantum regressionist say that, such a wonderful researcher admit to me that that is channeling. To me, it's the same source, and people call it different things. You may call it, for me, my higher self is Estrella. So people want to know all about Estrella, divine mother of the Elohim angelic beings. That is primarily who I channel. Abraham Hicks channels, Esther Hicks channels Abraham Hicks. Everyone has it. There's the Seth material, there's something. But when I really look at it as a channel, I am looking at the same fluid energies that are disguising themselves as fractals of God. And there is gods within gods within gods, and universes within universes within universes. It's more expansive than I can explain to most people who choose to understand. It's God within you, your unique expression of Christ consciousness and God, if you want to call it as such. And no matter what you call it, it's still the same thing, no matter what material you put it into, how you channel it, what books come about. To me, it still looks like the same energy when I'm looking and receiving and feeling it. Everything. You are God. I am God. God is the beautiful, precious element of life and all that is. God is the I am. God is all. How could there be anything beyond the all-encompassing wholeness of who we are? There is the what, but we will never understand that as long as we have bodies, and all we can do is seek to understand it. So the what behind God can never be fully understood as long as we are talking within thoughts and brains and bodies. Love. Everything is love, or is a call to love. We are here to be helpful and to love. It is a game of our creation, and that's all that creation ever has been, an illusion, a very fun, expansive game. Every present moment you are creating, every time I hear you speak, the frequency expands, and then you believe it, and once a belief is observed, you begin your job as a creator, and then that happens, and you observe it as happening to you because you are God observing you. Time doesn't exist according to God. It is all happening simultaneously, lifetimes overlapping lifetimes. We only perceive time because we feel separate from God. And the more we believe ourselves as separate, the more we perceive something as linear and past. Absolutely, they are teaching us, we are teaching them, and a lot of people don't really observe that we as humans in these bodies, that I, by the way, don't perceive as real, are actually expansive enough to teach someone on the other side of the veil. We perceive ourselves as minuscule, as insignificant. And we are looking at the grander scheme of things as if there is something bigger and better than this and than us. But what I've observed in the Christ consciousness is that this is what we are. And we are expanding further and further and further into our divinity to understand that there cannot be separation. There cannot be smallness. And that will always be the case as long as you believe in death and birth and sickness and wrong. And please understand, if my one message to you is this, that you take, you are God, you are love. And if that's true, if you believe that, how can God be imperfect? And we create from these experiences, we expand from these experiences. And when you do welcome that beautiful divine reunion of the Christ or the God within you, whatever you will call it, the expansion is absolutely beautiful. And to give an example of that, when you perceive and you go to, say, life after death meetings, and you listen to people's out-of-body experiences, and you talk about that, you listen to them saying, it's beautiful, I feel so light, I feel so joyful, I feel so blissful. The goal as God in a body is to feel that while in your body. When you do that, that's the absolute Christ conscious energies. That's the acceleration of the I am, the love, the everything. So perceive that as opposed to just trying to go home and trying to leave. But understand that you are here for reasons that you create, that you choose to be helpful. I have observed that as a medium, that for people who are so quick to want to get out of their bodies, suicide for instance, and then I observe that they come right back into a scenario where they are reincarnated and they choose the whole creation or recreation experience, if you believe in the past, all over again. They're the quickest ones to want to come back. For the beauty of learning and expansion of their loved ones in their soul group who are still, quote, still living, who still feel separation, they then grow, they expand, they learn much more deeply when perceiving that loss and perceiving that separation. It is their gift to us for our awakening. It's hard to perceive when you lose someone. I don't feel that everyone comes here to wake up. Everyone comes here to play roles of being asleep. How can I put it? You are always awakened. The God within you is always there. Enlightenment isn't a place to which you go. You're not going up here, out here to somewhere better. You always are in enlightenment, but it's a matter of you perceiving as such. But it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to go somewhere different. You know what I mean? I'd say that we all choose why we're here, and I can't say there's one thing to do other than love and being helpful. But we do create our own unique paths towards that. And helping others awaken is indeed a path that many people choose. But some people do not awaken when they're in service. That doesn't mean that they are going to awaken or perceive themselves as awakened beings in that process. So for example, some people come in and play the role, the rapist, the murderer, all these things that we perceive as so terrible. And then what I do as a medium, I watch people cross beyond the veil, as you call it, the veil, and they speak to the ones that they killed, and they're all going, thank you for that. Thank you for loving me enough to play that role, to teach me that death doesn't exist, and now I get it and I expand further. Thank you for that. Of course, they can change their minds. They don't have to do it. Nothing. You are not here by being forced. This is not a prison planet. You as God's created the perception, and it is a gift to be here. And there are droves waiting to come in if you won't. You don't have to be here, but you choose it. You are very expansive beings. I have watched people attempt to awaken to that truth. And if they're not ready, I've seen what you would call immense consequences. Psychic experiences that, humanity would say went wrong. People ending up in mental hospitals. Yeah, you aren't always ready for it. So if you feel fear, back up until you release fear. When you feel fear, you're going down the wrong path. Fear is the opposite of love, the tail end of it. So if you can't get past the fear, sit with it for a bit. You don't have to force your awakening. It comes naturally whenever it comes. The one truth is the love. But we are unique divine creators, and we are overlapping each other, experiencing oneness and then perceptions of separation, and then observing God in a different way. And then we feel that we are developing unique truths to bring back to the collective. It's really, really a lot of what I've experienced. And it's a gift to come here and experience that, to teach someone, another aspect of you. You may view it as a higher aspect or a higher self, but in their eyes, they're viewing you as the higher self who's teaching them how to do something immensely complicated. And it is a gift. Who we're perceiving as Christ's masters are versions of us who are simply perceiving in a different way, but they don't have the experience in that moment of being in the third dimension. Therefore, it is we who are the masters. We are teaching them how to do something that is in a completely different way and modality than they've been able to experience. For people who, in particular, have never incarnated through a body, that is something that they would need to learn. And we volunteer for those roles willingly, and we stand in line to do it. There is a part of us who is doing it right now. In this moment, there's an aspect of you who is learning something in another lifetime that you believe is past. And whatever they are experiencing affects ours. And we choose that as a collective. My most important message is that everything is love and everything is a call to love, that nothing can be separate, and that we are all operating from God within.
Thank you for joining us. Do you also go by the name of the One as well?
Yes.
What is your connection to Pamela?
Our connection to Pamela is the same as our connection to you and to anyone who may be listening and who seeks from heart. Not from mind. All who seek the unity of oneness will at some point remember that there can be nothing but. All that you call love, joy, bliss, appreciation, gratitude, is within the frequency of oneness. You call us grace.
How many people would you say are channeling you at this time right now?
The question could more deeply be, how many people are not? Everyone is channeling us. It's just a matter of oneness and awareness. How many people are aware? That is only for you to know.
But when you come through different people, you come through in different flavors.
That is the beautiful perspective and creativity. The flags of color represented by your subconscious states. You are a beautiful collective of humans indeed. But we are one, and our primary frequency is grace. We are here to teach you to shift and accelerate into that grace, to release judgments, fears, attachments. We are here to help you strike a balance between what you know is duality and what you have defined as non-duality, and then to help you drop those labels and definitions, to help you stop seeking but trusting.
When you come through other people, is it with all the same intent? Is it the same message in a sense?
It arrives at the same goal when the being is ready. And that message is grace, oneness, unity of all that is, Who are you? And then when you are ready, what are you?
So anyone that's channeling, whatever they're going to call it, their higher self, Seth, my future aspect, whatever it may be, you're always behind that.
Yes.
So when we see this separation, as in my father's coming through, my mother's coming through, my higher self's coming through, is that a bit of an illusion?
It is your dream, and you find it necessary for your unique learning contracts, your unique experiences that you choose prior to your incarnations. And this serves you for some time. Until you are ready to release that dream, you will not experience the grace within oneness. Prior to then, you stand in your unique version of creation. And when you are done creating, then you stand with oneness. You call us many things, and that matters not. But when you are ready to drop the definitions, the labels, the dualistic terms, oneness arrives. Oneness is always there, but your awareness of our arrival is a different thing. When you begin to release your stories, you find it necessary to operate within beliefs. Within the totality and collective of oneness, we hold no beliefs.
But surely when someone's bringing Seth through, or an aspect of Edgar Casey, or whatever it may be they're bringing through, then the people that resonate with that particular being that they're calling whatever it's labeled as, that's the teacher that's right for them. Because if you came through as oneness through everyone, wouldn't that be more cult-like, as we call it here?
If you would choose to perceive it as such, and you deem us someone to follow, then of course. What we are choosing to do is to honor you within what you call free will, although you are always liberated and there is nothing to obtain. Please understand that you are experiencing your own contracts, and we simply provide the blank screen upon which you create your movies. And that flavor will change, as you have called it, often, and it serves you in your time as you are creating and learning.
So we have contracts that, for example, I'm going to channel the one, or I'm going to channel whatever it may be called. That's a contract to say that that's a potential that we could, something we could achieve in this life, that we could bring through in this life with free will.
Yes, and you have decided upon your unique lessons and learning experiences. And when you begin to perceive yourselves as minds and bodies, dualism occurs. And from that moment, you choose a pipe through which water flows, the wire through which electricity runs. The teaching is that wire, is that pipe, and the information is oneness.
What is the difference between the Christ consciousness and God?
You perceive God as being in the background when your egos are in the forefront. And then, the more your egos merge with your God center, you understand that there was never a separation, but you were simply playing, creating. And then, the reunion, the glorious time upon which you begin to realize who you are. That is the key.
So when we us humans say we wish to attain the Christ-like state, all we're really saying is, in another way, we wish to attain the source-like state, or we wish to attain the God-like state.
It matters not to us what you call us. Christ is one flavor and one example. Within a very high frequency, all of the Christ beings who chose to embody experienced grace at some point. Therefore, you have chosen this term, and in your environments, your planet of creation, within the atmosphere of the collective beliefs, it is relevant, very relevant for many of you. We understand your need to define it, but we do not.
So how many versions of the Christ-like consciousness, this higher evaluated consciousness or evolved consciousness, has been on planet Earth before?
We do not perceive before. You have always been. There are various versions, dimensions, if you will, planes of existence to which you transcend. You operate simultaneously in these dimensions, and you enjoy it as such. And then when you forget that you are within your Christ collectives, as you call it, then you claim that you suffer. You claim that you're disconnected, that you are lost, that you are broken, that you need mending. But the Christ consciousness is perfect. How can oneness be anything but?
But if I don't want to take the truth of the Christ consciousness with me when I cross over and I wish to call it source, what is the difference?
There is no difference. Call it what you will. Those are just human labels. The ego loves to attach to these labels, for they feel safe to you.
Have all religions been channeled?
Yes.
And that got misconstrued as a prophet?
Yes.
Is the oneness, the God source, the collective, the all that is, going to allow another religion to come onto this planet?
There's not a matter of allowing. You are creating it. You choose to learn amongst and within the paradigm and the construct of religion. Why do you still need it is a question you should ask yourselves. For until then, how could it cease? God creates, and you are those gods.
For me, the idea that we're birthing a new religion, but it's not a religion, it's more like a philosophy, which is we create our own truth now, and we keep recreating a new truth as we grow in our understanding.
We would not endeavor to call this a new religion, but a new way of being, a new way of living. And we would hesitate to call it new, for it always is, and always has been, and always will be. It is simply the understanding of oneness, without your judgments, without your attachments, the understanding that we are all a part of each other.
I was told through another connection, you came through someone else, and he was under hypnosis at the time, and he's a channel as well. And he said, well, it said, she said, whatever it is that said, the source, that to not wake up in this lifetime isn't of the greatest advantage for the whole. Actually, to wake up is more beneficial for everyone.
Do you believe that to be truth? That is the question. You have many contracts, many ways through which you learn. Perhaps in some experiences and lifetimes, some would choose not to wake up because they already have, and higher versions of themselves already are. So in the version that is playing a role to help you seek further, if their goal was to awaken as well, how would that benefit you? In that space through which you call time, there are various roles, and not everyone will awaken. There are various dimensions and parallel existences. Some will play the roles to remain unawakened as a method of service towards those who will awaken further. And then perhaps they will exchange roles later. It is all your methodology, your ways of creating and playing. But consider that you have always been awakened. It is not a goal, a state to obtain. You have always been awakened. You are playing as if you are not. Therefore, when you have a play and all of you are on the stage, why would the actors all seek the same thing?
Well, then why did it come through that particular source, which was a good connection, that it's of beneficial need, it's a benefit to wake up.
In the fifth dimension, that is absolutely accurate. And that is that perspective. That is the understanding that in the dominant goal for the collective of Earth, yes, but we are seeking beyond that, and we are teaching you beyond that. There are many dimensions within Earth. Gaia holds many collectives, and oneness is behind them all. But within the nature of oneness, there cannot be just one role to play initially. You must understand the opposite as you are creating in order to remember that you are one. And this is your choice on various dimensions that are beyond this experience.
So what dimension are we on right now whilst I do this recording, as I'm aware of?
Define we.
Me, then.
In this brief moment, I'd say this is a fourth dimensional plane of existence through which all realities can be created simultaneously. And you are open to the perception, your being a creative being. But there cannot be one goal within that for you, which is why we gave you this answer. The prior answer stood within the frequency of the other channel and the other source through which you asked.
Okay, I think, so when that question was asked to that guy, and it came through as you coming through at that particular day, at that particular time, just a few days ago, was I on a different dimension then?
Yes. Please understand that you are on all dimensions simultaneously, and because you still perceive yourself as separated when you are creating, you will shift those dimensions and planes of existence at will in any given moment based upon your frequencies. Therefore, when you are creating, how can your answers always be the same?
So I walk through the front door to leave this house in a moment, and I could be walking down the steps into another dimension.
And you likely will.
What changes the truth as you shift your consciousness between different dimensions?
What you choose to believe as you stand in your heart center, your frequency will shift for what serves you as a creator in that moment, and that moment is where you create. It is always most relevant from the present.
How many times per day are we shifting into different realities?
That is a question that cannot be answered, but for you, thousands. You're very active.
And when we say shifting, it's not my body and my soul it's a consciousness shift, which you're unaware that you've gone into another dimension, into another body.
Many channels are aware, many are not.
Why is this information coming through now?
To help you understand how you are creating, how you are dreaming, the various versions of universes within you, the various natures of the God within you, and as you call it, the source within you.
So we go to bed at night, we wake up, and because we've shifted something in our reality or whatever we've done in the dream state, we could be waking up into a universe where it's slightly different.
Of course, it often is different.
We are constantly shifting between realities. So, and are these different universes in a sense?
Yes? And different planes of existence within those universes.
So, say in this universe, there's someone that I love very much, and when I've made a change, a different choice, maybe it's a pet, for example, right? I've made a different choice, and I shift into another reality. That pet, that person, I may never remember again in that newer reality because it doesn't serve me anymore.
That is true.
How many people have I left behind?
Your brain cannot comprehend that number. It is infinite, and you are not leaving them behind. How could that ever be possible? There are various versions of them who have also accelerated their consciousness so that you are always with them. And for a time, you are both playing the role to choose to forget, although that cannot be truth within oneness. It is just a role that you are playing.
How many versions? Oh God, yeah. Well, just the people in this room right now, there is an infinitive number of us having this timeline experience right now?
Absolutely. Your brains cannot comprehend how many versions of you have separated forth as you play within the construct of duality.
So, is it the case the more we come from love in our present moment, the more we're helping heal the other versions of us?
Do you perceive that something is broken? In which case, yes.
I suppose I was coming from that perspective of, are the others affecting us and are we affecting them?
You choose to play the roles to believe that you are affecting each other. And in essence, you are catalyzing each other. You are uplifting each other. At times you choose to believe that that is repression or suffering or loss or brokenness. But in the essence of oneness, none of that can be. And when you accelerate your energies to the point of merging within your bodies, this is a quickening that you are experiencing within an expansion point that you view as new. And this is why you're so excited. And even this channel is very excited about the birth of this new consciousness.
But there are many entities, or whatever you want to call them. If I was to say what I think I am, I would say I'm love. That's what I would call the new version of my soul. But if there's other entities or souls out there that never made it to Earth to have this human experience in any multiverse, right, then they must be living through us then.
Of course. That is your contracts. And you help them master many things that they are not ready for, have not chosen. And until they are ready to stand within an incarnation and to take that brave task of separation, then you are helping. You are the masters in that moment.
So when something horrific has happened to me or a loved one, I'll stick with me, for example. If I was to manifest cancer in my life, then actually I'm giving that experience to all the entities that are working with me that can never have a human experience and experience cancer.
Yes.
So there's never a waste of any experience we go through. It's not just for us, it's for them as well.
Absolutely.
So we're having a crappy day, they're getting to experience a crappy day.
Yes. And the bliss of the reunion of the God Self is indeed sweet. There is always a positive result from that learning. There is always expansion that continues infinitely.
So the illusion that, as I speak to you right now in this form, that you're here, I'm here to learn from you, actually, you're sucking every ounce of this experience from me because you're learning from me.
And you perceive that you are learning, so for that moment, that is your truth. You are already masters. You have simply forgotten.
So you're re-remembering through me.
Your souls can never forget, but your minds can and do willfully. And then you remember absolutely in this manner.
What are you getting from my experience?
The ability to perceive and observe how God would respond and create from various choices. You have called this free will, but everything is free in the higher dimensions. But upon separation, you begin to perceive a hierarchy, a limitation of sorts. And we observe ourselves experiencing this. And when we become you and merge with you, in the final moments of what you have called death, we remember as you. And we get to experience the bliss of that expansive reunion, the acceleration of our energies further. And it is endless. The learning doesn't cease.
But if all time is happening now, then I've already crossed over.
There is nothing to cross. There are many aspects of you that you perceive upon your choice of separation. But in truth, it is all happening simultaneously on the same screen in this collection of all the versions of you that are within this plane of existence. But in truth, there are many planes of existence, many universes, and many higher versions of you. You cannot cross over into anything. That is a perception that is limited based upon your mind. You cannot die.
Well, when I'm not here anymore and I've chosen not to be here anymore, then I'm somewhere else, aren't I, though? I mean, I'm not physically in this game anymore, on this reality.
And this particular frequency, no, you would not be. And that version of you would not be, but perhaps another version of you would be. And this is all within the personal choice of what you call free will.
So another version of me is, and is it at the same age as when the other version of me in this reality ceased? Does it continue on the same age, or am I...
That is not a hard, set, fast rule. Some of you experience a new age, an infant, if you will, an older gentleman, if you will. Age is a perspective, and if you have mastered time, why would you need to even have an age? Perhaps there is a version of you that accelerates its consciousness to the extent that age does not apply even.
But I must have gone, I must be existing in, or my awareness must then be in a reality where to create is easier, the manifestation process is quicker.
Yes, and you may choose that.
But then is it a lot like this? I mean, is it pretty much like this room?
That is a limited view, but it could be if you believe as such. Do you understand that you have no limits in your possibilities?
Yes, kind of.
Then whatever version of you wishes to come forth in that moment will be creating and making that decision as the dominant creator in that moment. And the other versions of you will be subtle and in the background until they become dominant creators in that moment. And this is how you play and then eventually transcend time.
Well, why do I feel, or some of us feel, that we've reached that space, yet we're very happy to be here? I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm quite happy here.
That is exactly the goal that you're choosing. Honoring the present moment, being in the energy of frequency and appreciation.
Right.
And then why would you need to change that moment? Why would you choose it? That would be up to you.
Are we able to, or is it of any value to communicate with our other aspects of ourselves in other realities, or even an older version of ourselves, to bring in some sort of, to be able to speak to those versions, to be able to ask them questions on ways that we could improve our present moment now, or is that defeats the object of everything's perfect as it is?
That is depending upon your unique levels of mastery. Many humans choose this within regressions to access different levels of conscious states. And then, in that moment of your creation that you call time, one aspect of you is teaching another aspect of you. And this helps you at what you call the subconscious level, for you still perceive fragmentation and separation. And as long as you do, these methods will help you very much.
Sometimes in our lives, when, this present moment can be quite challenging, is that challenging because something's rippling from the future to try to change the present moment right now, because there's so much love in the future for this decision you've made, that love is rippling and causing effects that we can't quite understand in the present moment.
Now you are dipping into the oneness truth. Yes.
I'm dipping into the oneness truth.
You have your toes in the water and you are playing quite joyfully.
So, and that shows the oneness of everything, the future and past being connected, or present
Yes.
moment.
The rippling effect, the acceleration of energies, and then the joining and merging of what you call souls, spirits, bodies. You love to merge.
So when we judge something as being so difficult sometimes or terrible, actually something in the future is being birthed, and to really see it from a different perspective.
And you are assisting many, many aspects of yourselves in those moments when you release that judgment.
Or of course, the multi-versions of yourselves from the multiverse might also be making a similar decision, yet different aspects of it coming through.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. What's another oneness teaching that we could be doing a bit better, or that would help us, just if we're allowed to hear such information?
Please open to the realm of possibility. Within your stages of learning, if you must seek, seek grace. If you must play, play within the energy of wonder and possibility. Open beyond what you have perceived as a limitation and ask yourself the questions. What if it could be different? How could my life be different? How would I feel? Is what I believe to be true, oneness, the case? What is truth?
What is truth?
Question yourselves further and ask, who am I?
Okay, we've got about 10 more minutes left here. Thank you so much for everything you've brought through so far. The oneness teachings, that's beautiful, thank you. So, when we're daydreaming and thinking about potential futures of ourselves, of what we could, or what we do, or what we would love to do, by going with love as, you know, the guiding path. Let me ask you this first. Should we always go with love when we make a decision?
Of course. But what is love to you? What does it mean to you? And when you ask yourself a question, when you are attempting to seek an answer, you would simply ask yourself, what would someone who loves themselves do? How would someone who loves themselves act? And how would someone who loves themselves feel?
Well, I only know one answer to that, and that's, it wouldn't hurt someone else. It wouldn't bring pain to someone else.
Would that particular frequency feel like compassion?
Oh, it's the same thing.
Then operate there. That is your unique frequency to expand you further and beyond.
But when we understand that I am you, you are me, why would I want to hurt myself for?
That is precisely the point. No one would. But question yourself more deeply. Is it true that you could harm another? Think outside of your limited minds and think into the higher dimensions and into the accelerated source energies. Is it true that you could harm another?
Well, on this earthly level, it would seem that way. But on a soul level, obviously, I know that to be different.
Then how do you choose to create? Are you going to honor your limited mind or go beyond?
What's an unlimited mind act like? What is the repercussions of an unlimited mind?
Repercussion would not be a term that we use. As long as you are operating within bodies on an earthly plane of existence, there would be natural consequences. You push a domino inside of a bubble, that bubble pops. That domino extends into another bubble, that bubble pops. And perhaps there are bubbles within bubbles and dominoes within each. Tens, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions, and beyond. You are affecting other versions of you collectively. Manage your thoughts, manage your mind, and think outside to a certain degree of what you would consider possible, and then go deeper within every question that you have asked.
So, could there be any truth that the more you can imagine things and, kind of make new ideas up, in a sense, the more you're bringing yourself to present moment, and the more you're bringing yourself to a bigger understanding of what this is, in the sense of imagination?
When you leave your limited mind and body, then you understand that it all comes back to this oneness within the present moment. And yes, you're learning more.
Yeah, I've been channeling that called the One, and I thought at some point I was making it all up.
That is something that your ego would say to you. But do you believe your ego? That would be a further question that only you can answer and ask. We have spoken through you many times, but when will you choose to listen? You have been listening more as of late.
This information that's coming through now, that's coming on this documentary, the person that's watching this now, they're watching it because that's the level that they're at, and or this is just what they need to hear right now.
In this moment, which could shift in 2 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 30 years.
But the feeling I get is there, just as Pamela sat behind books, there is so much more to come through. This is the truth of just this moment.
Yes. And your moment is expanding. There are versions of you that will need this truth in this moment, and then not shortly thereafter, and then you will return to it again. But it always is, and it cannot ever not be.
So it's pointless me asking you or saying to you, oh, let's bring something through that's never been brought through before.
Everything has been brought through before, but you are remembering it again. You're being made aware. Nothing is ever new.
But you're not going to give me information that's so, seismic unless I'm asking you the question.
Absolutely. You have to be inquiring within God in you. What is your question? What is your intention? It is all based upon your unique creation and what you bring forth in that moment. And if you do not, then you are not ready.
Is this kind of an inbuilt safety feature that we gave ourselves before coming into this reality?
Yes, because you perceive that you will die. Therefore, you perceive that you are not ready. You perceive that you will be harmed or that someone will be harmed from the information. You are so cautious with your truths and creation. Therefore, you block this information until you are ready. But it is there, brimming at the surface. Grace is there.
Why is there an expansion with the amount of channelers coming into this planet right now? What's your truth, my truth behind this?
You are creating further modalities of separation, different messages, different levels of awareness in order to perceive the grand, vast, glorious reunion of oneness that will occur thereafter. When you do realize that all the channels are one, all the messages are one, that will be the biggest expansion that you can perceive in your limited minds thus far.
And even some of the channelers are resistive to that message.
Absolutely.
because there's no free card. They're having their experience exactly the way they choose it.
Always.
One final question, thank you for that. One final question. And obviously not forgetting the ET side of things here as well, the extraterrestrial, well, we call them that, the other beings out there in this universe. Is it in our benefit for us to become more aware that we have brothers out there who are also here to help us expand spiritually?
We do not operate within the terms out there or extraterrestrial. Those are limited terms. There is the version of you that is here, in what you call Earth. There is the version of you that you believe is over here because you perceive separation. Because you are understanding this and believing it as truth, this aspect of you who feels separated will help this aspect who does not. But there can be no extra. There can be no separation in truth. And when you release your concepts, all of these aspects do this. And this is oneness. This is truth. Many are not ready to perceive that there is nothing extra or beyond. You are all that is.
That's interesting. So some of these beings that are, no, I can't use the right word with you, can I? But some of these brothers, the aspects of us in different life forms that are visiting this planet right now, some say they're extra-dimensional, but that could just be another dimensional version of ourselves coming through to pop in to help and progress and just do whatever it's doing.
All of it is you. Every last being that you consider extra or separate. You use the word family because it helps you feel a unity when you fear your separation. And this provides comfort and love and more oneness. Therefore, you have created that as a part of your expensive contracts, but all of it is you.
So our understanding of the UFO phenomena is completely not what it really is. We have not got it, our understanding is upside down.
In these moments, yes.
Okay. Do you have any final message for those watching this?
Return to love always. In these moments in your collective states of awareness, forgive yourselves. When you can release judgments, attachments, all natures of fragmentation and separation, then you will accelerate into oneness, only to decelerate again as you choose. And that is all your choice. Please understand that you are God's, and we are one.